2020 regular season finale, the Houston Texans hope to play spoiler for a Tennessee Titans team looking to win the AFC South. The Texans want to snap their 4-game losing streak and head into their 2020 offseason with a win. In his NFL career, Deshawn Watson is a perfect 2-0 against the Titans at home. He is just 313 yards away from setting a new franchise record for most passing yards in a season. Brandon Cooks could also reach 1,000 yards receiving, becoming just the second player in NFL history to do so with 4 different teams. But today, the defense will have to slow down NFL rushing leader Derrick Henry to keep the Titans from snagging a win in Week 17. We've got the week's top news. Mark Vandermeer joins the show, and we sit down with Roderick Johnson. Texans Unlimited, presented by Verizon, starts now.
Rock and roll, touchdown, Deshawn Watson. Here comes JJ. The Texans are the AFC South champions again.
Welcome into Texans Unlimited, presented by Verizon, and Happy New Year to all of you. It's Week 17. It's Fan Appreciation Day, presented by Verizon. And you know what, we're going to get right into it. I got Drew Dougherty with me. We appreciate this guy as well. He's the voice of the Texans, Mark Vandermeer. He's up in the booth today. Mark, how's it going on this gorgeous Week 17 game day? He will be joining us in just a moment. I guess Mark is enjoying this gorgeous weather. But, Drew, let me ask you. I know it's a bittersweet ending to a roller coaster of a 2020 season. Usually the Texans are playing for seeding or playoff positioning or one or the other. Obviously today that's not going to happen. But there's still some things that can be accomplished with today's game, right?
Yeah, lots of milestones, and we're going to get into them with about Deshawn Watson in just a second. But we got Mark Vandermeer, the voice of the Houston Texans. And, Mark, as Deepi just alluded to it, motivation for the Texans. Motivation. What is it today?
All right, Mark, we look forward to hearing you on Sports Radio 610 along with Andre Ware and John Harris. You can catch Mark doing the game day broadcast just in just, what, an hour or so as the game day kicks off. We've been flexed to 325, which is always exciting. Let's get into some of your quick hits of the week, some of the top stories. The Texans obviously want to close out their 2020 season with a win, you know, they've got to get through Derrick Henry. Mark talked about it. Drew talked about it as well. Romeo Cornell talked about it as well. What the Texans need to do to get past that stiff arm of Henry.
Well, you know what, John? We really don't want to stay away from him. We want to try to close in on him and try to get as many guys around him as we can. On the stiff arm, we know that it's a powerful stiff arm. And so basically, depends on when he puts it out. You know, if he puts it out early enough, you can try to break it down to keep it from being a stiff arm per se. But if he's got good timing with it, which in many cases he does have good timing with it, you're not able to break it down, and then he hits you in the chest, arm, face mask, or wherever. That helps him gain yards. But you know, he's a strong physical runner with really good speed. And the thing to do is, if you can keep him from getting to the second level, then that gives you the best chance to slow him down.
And Deshawn Watson has had a record-setting 2020 season. Despite the Texans' 4-11 record, he leads the NFL in passing yards per attempt. He's tied for second in the NFL in completions of 20 or more yards. He's thrown a single-season franchise-high 30 passing touchdowns this year. Watson shared what the 2020 season's been like for him and what he's learned along the way.
Just a lot of different emotions, a lot of different, ups and downs. But that's every year, every life span, been some big accomplishments that I've able to accomplish individually, as a on the field and also off the field. So it's been a blessing and been, very, very life changing, and I've grown as an individual, as a player, as a person, as a man. So 2020 has definitely been a lot of different roller coasters, but at the same time, it's been good on my end. So, happy for it and looking forward to 2021.
And could today be J.J. Watt's last game as a Texan? Deshawn Watson certainly hopes not. A lot of Texans fans certainly hope not. Watt will still be under contract for the 2021 season, but was asked what this offseason might be like for him and what sort of uncertainty lies ahead for the 10-year vet.
Yeah, I think just like you said, I think there's a whole lot of unknowns in that situation. There's a whole lot of unknowns, so we'll see what happens. I don't have any guarantees left in my contract, so something's got to happen one way or another. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm not sure. There's too many unknowns, but I'm looking forward to playing the game on Sunday, and we'll see what happens after that.
So J.J. Watt's going to play today. Going to be fun to see what he does against the Tennessee Titans. He's always eaten them up throughout his career. How about a little bit more of that? I'm cool with it. And guys who will not be playing, there's two very, very notable names. Your left tackle, Laramie Tunsil, is out, as is running back Duke Johnson. Those two not going to go. So what we're going to see is Roderick Johnson starting at left tackle. I got a chance to catch up with him, and you'll see a snippet of that conversation a little bit later. And then on the right side is probably going to be the rookie Charlie Heck. So he gets his first NFL start after spending the bulk of the season on the inactives list. And you saw that Damian Ratley is inactive. That means, to the joy of many who tweeted me every single Sunday, why isn't Isaiah Coulter playing? Well, he's active today. Don't know how many snaps he'll get, but it's Coulter SZZN or SZN for many of you out there. Isaiah Coulter is active. The rookie out of Rhode Island is on the 53 today, or excuse me, on the 46 today.
Yeah, that's right. And I think the big storyline obviously is going to be this offensive line because Laramie Tunsil had the ankle injury, went out last week. Roderick Johnson was already filling in for Titus Howard. He shifts over to the left side, and then that's how Charlie Heck comes in at right tackle. But you're really running thin at offensive line, which is why the Texans made some moves to the active roster. Greg Mance was elevated from the practice squad. Ben Shaw was also activated. He's a center guard that the Texans picked up from the Lions practice squad. He's on the active roster today too, because it was looking really thin last week with all those injuries on one drive in the second quarter. So they want to make sure they've got enough guys in there, especially if any more go out with injury.
Thin, but oddly enough, Deshawn Watson still threw 3 touchdowns, and they ran like they've never run before. They averaged better than 9 yards a carry, which was amazing, and they did it, like Deepi said, with a kind of patchwork offensive line. But there's the guy, number 4, Deepi, has a few more milestones within his grasp, within his reach today. Remember these numbers, 283 and 313. If he gets 283, he wins the NFL passing title yardage-wise for 2020 because Patrick Mahomes has it right now, and he's not playing. And Deshaun's ahead of Josh Allen, who's just taken a seat in the second half in Buffalo. So Deshaun can get the NFL passing title today, and if he gets 313 yards, he'll break Matt Schaub's 2009 record in a season for passing yards. So he would become the franchise's single-season passing later as well. So a couple fun little milestones to keep an eye on. It's been a rough season. We know that. We're not sugarcoating anything. We know that there are double-digit losses on the ledger for the Texans, but this is one thing, in addition to the outcome of the game, to keep an eye on today against Tennessee.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. We saw what happened in Week 6. The game went into overtime. It was the Derrick Henry walk-off. It was such a close game, and you wonder how things could have looked differently for the Texans had they pulled out a win on the road against an undefeated Titans team at the time. Certainly, we know what happened after that, but maybe the Texans can rectify some things with a win today because a lot of things are going to change after today's game. You're going to have a new head coach, a new general manager. A lot of guys are not going to be on this team anymore. It's really the last time this core group of players is going to be playing together. So I think they all want to head into their offseason with the win, with their best game out on the field and leave everything out there on the line. Certainly you hope no more injuries, and you hope the Texans can pull a win out against the Titans because you just love to ruin things for the Titans today.
Yes, you talk about that. Now, it looks like the Titans are going to be in the playoffs no matter what because the Dolphins are losing in Buffalo. So if that happens, Tennessee's in, whether they're a wild card winner or a division title winner. Now, they got to beat the Texans, and they got to have the Colts lose if they want the AFC South to happen. Or they just have to win. They have to beat the Texans. Now, if the Texans beat them and the Colts win, Tennessee's a wild card team. They're not hosting a playoff game. So you could cause them a little bit of pain in that regard. But for those of you out there that are like me and kind of petty, you wanted a Dolphins win, you wanted a Ravens win, and you wanted a Texans win. Because if that had happened, out went the Titans. They would have been home for the playoffs, but alas, not looking like that's going to happen.
I don't know if Drew's answered more questions or created more questions, but it is a
so.
very murky playoff picture still as all these games get ready to start here in just a few. Let's get into some of your fan questions presented by Tarasco's. Thank you so much for all of you watching from everywhere. We've got Christian from Germany, Mark's in Texas, Aiden's in Houston, Rico's in Houston, Jeevan up in Cyprus.
Is that your Jeevan?
My son's name is Jeevan. That's not my son up in Cyprus, but thank you all of you watching. Marie wants to know what channel is the game on.
I don't think that's my Marie either. Is
that your daughter?
I have a daughter named Marie.
She's
so.
like 6, so
yeah.
no, it's on CBS. You can also listen on Sports Radio 610 and pick whichever one you choose, or do both. Watch the game on TV and listen on the radio. It's really up to you. Ryan says, what does today's game mean for the Titans? I think Drew pretty much spelled it out. I think it's more about your pride. I think for the Texans, they've had 4 games in a row where they've lost. They haven't won since Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah.
They haven't had a turnover or a takeaway, and I think it's an angry Texans team. You saw J.J. Watt last week, his comments. I think it would sort of put a little bit of salve on a pretty disappointing season if they could get a win, and one that ruins, like you said, the Titans' chances heading into the offseason of winning this.
Yeah, you bring up the Texans, and for the Titans, like we mentioned before, a win, that sews up their first AFC South title since 2008. It also means their first season sweep of the Texans since 2007. So that's a little bit of a milestone for them. But win and they get the title for the division title. Lose, they're still going to the playoffs as a wild card.
All right, James says, what are the keys to a Texans win? I feel like we get this question every week.
It's a great question, yeah.
It is a great question. I think when you're playing the Titans, it has to be to stop the run. I was asked about this on Titans, from the Titans side, on their enemy sidelines segment this week, which position group really needs to have a big game. I think the run defense.
Yep.
I mean, I think Derrick Henry is, 233 yards away from a 2,000-yard rushing season. I mean, he leads the NFL in rushing yards. You've got to contain him. He's really tough to bring down, and you see what damage he can do if he gets past that first, second level. So I think stop Derrick Henry first and foremost, and get your offense scoring early and often. The slow starts have been something that have been befuddling all season. So I think if you get out, score a little bit early, get Deshawn passing a little bit, and get yourself in a rhythm, I think that'll do good things for this Texans
Deepi,
team.
you really stole my, not thunder, but the 2 points that I probably would have brought up, because fast starts have absolutely doomed this Texans team. They haven't had them. They've allowed opposing teams to score touchdowns on the bulk of the opening drives this year, and they really have scored 1 touchdown on opening drive, and you got to go back to like Denver in 2018 on the road when Deshawn Watson and the offense have scored on an opening drive before that one time this season. They've been just horrendous to start the game, and when you're playing that way, you're playing at a disadvantage because you're not able to tee off on the opposing team's passer. They're able to run the ball. They're able to take advantage of what has been a very leaky run defense in 2020. And going back to Derrick Henry, I mean, he abused the Texans in the last go-around, had over 200 yards on the ground, had about 50 and change through the air on only 2 receptions. So he had darn near 300 yards from scrimmage, and if you allow one guy to do that, you're going to be struggling. And the Texans did struggle. Deshaun Watson left the game, left the field the last time these two teams played with a lead. Never saw the ball again because Titans went down the field and scored to force overtime, and then won the coin flip and scored a touchdown in overtime to end things there.
Yeah, that's certainly one of the most heartbreaking losses. There have been quite a few.
Yeah.
There have been quite a few in 2020. Kathy wants to know, what do you expect from J.J. Watt today? I expect a big game from J.J. Watt. He's been very vocal about his disappointment in the season and the frustration and where it's gone. And you know what's even more amazing is the fact that he's been healthy this year. We've seen so many years where the Texans have struggled without J.J. Watt at this point in the season. This is not one of them. He's been healthy. He's played at such a great, high-caliber level pre-injury J.J. Watt. So I expect to see some sacks from J.J. Watt. I expect him to get under Ryan Tannehill's skin and make life uncomfortable for him. So I expect big things from J.J. Watt in this final game of 2020.
I do too, and in his career against the Titans, the Texans have won 10 games and only lost 4 games when J.J. Watt's played. And sack-wise, well, he's done pretty well against them. He has really lit it up. He's got 18 in his career against the Titans. And our buddy John Harris brought up a really interesting point via text message the other day. The Texans have gotten turnovers this season against the Titans, against the Jaguars, and against the Lions and the Patriots, and that's it.
That's it.
And they haven't gotten many turnovers. Only 4 teams have gotten those turnovers off of.
Well, hopefully they can get some more today. Another guy that needs to have a big game, Roderick Johnson. He's playing at left tackle without Laramie Tunsil because his job is important when he's got to protect the blind side of Deshawn Watson. You had a chance to sit down with Rod Johnson a little bit earlier in the week. Fun guy to catch up with. Here's a look at Drew's one-on-one with Roderick Johnson.
We've got offensive lineman Roderick Johnson with us. And Roderick, you have started at left tackle. You have started at right tackle. You have had to be versatile, and that's one of your hallmarks. What is this opportunity like for you?
Well, just to build on my resume of what I put out so far, just an opportunity to get another good film of playing tackle, and that's what I have to do, help myself and help the team win, most importantly.
Yeah, and Deshawn Watson has always spoken very highly of you and your skill set, what you can do. What's it like when you hear those words? Because I imagine when he says it publicly, you've already heard it from him as well, right?
Right. I mean, it means a lot coming from the magician himself, but just to make sure, just to know he trusts me and to protect his blind side, it builds my confidence to know that I got a magician back there and he will make things happen. So it's just good to know that we can both make things happen and trust and believe in each other.
For the most part this season, the run game has been a bit of a struggle, but that was not the case last Sunday. What was different about the run game, and how do you move that forward and keep that up this Sunday against the Titans?
This is the line, 5 playing as 1. Big shout out to David Johnson running hard and running through defenders and over. So, it's just not only the offensive line, but it's just 11 guys playing as 1, sound technique football, and that's what we have to carry over.
Tell me about this Titans front 7. What's the biggest challenge there with them?
That's a lot of big challenges. Their physicality, their discipline, and their technique and all their things they do is going to bring a big challenge to us. And we know that we got to bring our A game because the Titans are coming to town.
I think you sort of overlapped just a little bit maybe with Mike Vrabel and Shane Bowen and some of those coaches. Maybe you missed them by a little bit. I'm sorry if I'm hazy on my memory there. But what do you see, I guess, mentality-wise, filtering down from those guys into this defense?
Oh, I mean, the guys, they're big in the front 7. I know Vrabel did some time here, and I know he's a big defensive line. And the guys in the front 7 are going to come hard with stunts and blitzes, and they're going to come with bull rushes and things like that. So it's up to us to protect and hold against them.
What have you noticed about division games when you guys take on an AFC South opponent? How rugged is it?
It's very rugged. I mean, it's good to play them twice a year because you kind of pick up on their tendencies and things like that. But, you're always not the same. There are always going to be changes and things, so you can't be complacent. And, that's what we're going to try to do, is just win us the game, plain and simple.
Yeah, you always want to win every game. But
right.
How sweet would it be and how important is it to close out 2020 with a victory?
I mean, words don't need to be said about that, how important it is to win the last game. It's just really just the Texans, us, my team, and us going out there and doing it.
You're a positive guy. You're an optimistic guy. When we crossed paths in the past before COVID, you always had a smile on your face, a kind word. So with all that in mind, let's talk fashion real quick. You guys are wearing all blues. You like that? What's your favorite uniform combo when you guys take the field?
I'm not against the all blue color rush. I'm a fan.
Okay, so you're an offensive lineman. You like the slimming look of the dark color.
Yes.
All right, Roderick Johnson. Best of luck Sunday. Best of luck in the future. Hope you have a very happy New Year, and we will see you again very, very soon.
Thanks for having me, Drew.
Good stuff with Roderick Johnson, Rod Johnson, a.k.a. starting left tackle for today's game, Week 17 against Tennessee. And a lot on the line. We were talking during the break for Rod today, right?
Yeah, you heard in the interview, he's wanting to put a good showing on tape. And what he means by that is, he's not under contract after this game. He's a free agent. So he wants other teams out there, and the Texans too, to see, hey, I can play in this league. I can start in this league. And if that is the case, he's going to make himself some money in the offseason. So it's a big game for him. He's performed admirably for the Texans the last couple years. He signed, you remember, in 2018, midway through. Didn't play, but he was kind of one of those guys that was added to the practice squad. And then he had a good offseason going into the 19 campaign. And he even started a preseason game at left tackle and performed well in a Texans preseason win. Now, yeah, it's preseason, but he gave a little bit of a hope for the Texans at offensive line. Then They made the trade for Laramie Tunsil, so that was out the window. They moved Titus Howard to right tackle, so he was the swing guy. However, in 2019, he started a couple games. Started in London at right tackle. So he has had some opportunities, and he's performed well in those opportunities. Wants to continue that because he's wanting to take his next step. So best of luck to Rod Johnson. And he played really well last week. You saw the Texans have, like we mentioned earlier, their greatest running performance of the season. If they were able to kind of replicate that or get closer to that today, could be very, very good for Rod Johnson.
All right, well, last week we got this question, who will be a sleeper in today's game? Today, Josh asks that same question. I just want to say that I picked David Johnson last week.
He nailed it.
And he had quite a big game, but what about today's game? I think I want to go defense. I'm going to say Jacob Martin because I know he's missed some games with being on the COVID reserve list. He's back now. I think he's got more reps. This team definitely needs to get after the passer and create some discomfort for Ryan Tannehill. And I think when he's out on the field and he's getting more reps and hopefully he's feeling back to where he was before he went on that COVID list, I hope to see some big things from Jacob Martin today.
Those are good ones. That's a good one. I like that. I'm going to go with yours from last week, David Johnson.
Okay.
Because everybody's talking about what Derrick Henry, rightfully so, can do. But, hey, if David Johnson were able to do what he did last week, you got to think Texans are in good position to win this game. And a lot of that is going to be dependent on what happens up front with this offensive line, which is missing some key pieces. So I'll go with David Johnson because you're not going to see Duke Johnson today.
Yeah, he is inactive for today. All right, final question from Jeevan. He says, will Romeo Cornell be back with the Texans next season? Well, not as head coach. The Texans are certainly looking to hire their next head coach and general manager. That search, I think, is going to get underway. We'll see a lot more news about that, especially once this regular season ends and we start seeing who the Texans are hiring. But, you know, I wouldn't mind seeing Romeo Cornell back in the front office in some form or another, but just because I don't know if he's going to continue coaching. I mean, he's, 73, 74 years old. He's had a lot of experience in this league, and I think that from what he's seen, all the different teams he's been with, he does offer a lot of sage wisdom. He's just great to have in the building. So maybe at some point he comes back and serves a different role with the Texans. I'd like to see that, but he certainly won't be back as head coach. That'll be a new person.
Yeah, I echo all those sentiments about Romeo. He said this week, hey, I'm going to pause and look at what my options and all opportunities are when the season ends. But, yeah, he's not going to be the head coach for sure next year, but he might be around. We'll see.
All right. Well, you know what? This has been a fun season, Drew. It's a different show than what we've normally done, but you know what? It's been a lot of fun to do Texans Unlimited presented by Verizon this way or in any way. And maybe next year we'll be back standing on that field like we used to be once again. But I want to give a special thanks to everyone that has worked on this show today and throughout the entire season. Nicholas Patterson, Tyler Marcotte, Jay McDevitt, Amanda Caffey, Drew Dougherty, Mark Vandermeer, John Harris, Tyler Suddarth, and everyone else that's been a part of this game day crew.
Stig, Carrie, and the crew.
Yes,
don't forget them.
Thank you to all of you guys for everything you've done. Happy New Year to all of you watching. Stay safe, and as always, go Texans.